right. Oh, geez, my hair. It's been a day already. It's one of those days where I just could not get enough sleep. Anyway, this is Dr. Mia Luth. No, I'm not a medical doctor. Do have a PhD. And also, as a reminder, I did start a YouTube course called The Basics of Metaphysics. And the introductory video is up. So this is meant for general information, plain clear English, the best way I could. Um, I have no idea, to be honest, with for some reason, I don't know, the religion side of things. I'm, but so first, let me get this straight. So some of you are trying to tell me that what I need is to accept that I'm going to be dragged through some ridiculous spiritual warfare so I can. Why again is this happening? Yeah, I don't really get it. Leave me out of it. Okay, I got enough problems. I mean, people need to understand that, you know, like I don't know, some of you have been attacking, okay, someone whose entire family is deceased. I'm 54, and the last member of my family died in 2013. I have a condition called hidradenitis suppurativa, which is not so great because of medications I have to take because I have a movement disorder called functional neurological disorder, which is similar to Parkinson's. I have diabetes because of it. I couldn't afford to go to doctors for quite a while, and I have to get checked for cancer in my thyroid, in my digestive system, and it's possible that lymphoma is the reason that I have hidradenitis suppurativa. None of that is my fault. Some of the religious bullies need to back off of me, is what I'm saying, just out loud, okay? So, yeah, my Winnipeg sports um, talk friends. I'm blunt, and I'm going to tell you that there are things I know that you might not know. Is what I've been trying to get at, and I am like several people or more, right? Like who are very vocal, who I chat with, Winnipeg Jets fans and press and other people, which I can't do as much anymore because my X account got suspended because some asshole named Daddy Ranky at Outlook.com um, hacked my account. Some coward asshole. Anyway, yeah. So anybody who sees this who has an X account, um, can you send something to X support. Okay, my X name at Creasesinger. Okay, I just put it up here. Just put this person wants you to stop charging her for premium because you suspended her account. You're stealing money from me, X.com. I didn't do anything worthy of getting suspended. All right. Anyway, so Winnipeg Jets ice hockey. I do have my guitar. Will probably be strumming it. I have to build up my calluses, and I do have finger pains. Like testing my blood sugar is horribly painful, and trying to build my calluses because I have not played in a little while, and it hurts right now. Um, in about, I guess, in about a week and a half, I will be performing a song called Doug's Song. Uh, did manage to get a band together for a little while called the One-Legged Popes, and sadly, the one of the guitarists and vocalists named Doug. No sooner we got started, he found out that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and he was hoping to start chemotherapy, but something changed, and he decided that he didn't want chemo, so he passed away. And so I'm going to sing an original song um, that he wrote and he played at the same place I'm going to play it. There's an art show called Expressions of Healing for people with supposed mental illness. And so I got a copy of that song recorded because we were going to play it out live, and I needed to. He was going to play guitar and I was going to sing. I sussed out the words. I've done that, and so now I'm building calluses, and oh boy, yeah, my pinky was sliced open. I got to playing, and I didn't even really notice until there was like blood on my guitar and realized it's like opening my pinky. Uh, I am still going to say that 100%, it's never okay to tank on purpose an NHL franchise. I know some chatters say, but it's necessary. And it's like, no, it's wrong. Nobody's going to get around that. It doesn't matter how hard you try. Nobody can get around the fact that a team, okay, right, losing on purpose, and then people are going to try and tell me, oh, no, like they're not going to lose on purpose. But see, management can, like, excuse me, I mean, you're already pissed off at management. But doing something more wrong is not the way to secure the future of an NHL club. And I will never be wrong about that. And none of you will ever be able to prove me wrong about that. Truth. Right there. Okay? It's just, why do you think that the lottery system is in place? Why? Why do you think that got put in place? Okay. Because the NHL knew that the temptation was pretty great, and some teams may have done it, and they shouldn't have. And see, here's the thing is you can't make that back up to all the other teams who didn't do that. You can try and justify that all you want, but I will never agree with you. Okay? NHL teams need to win honestly and lose honestly. Otherwise, forget all the work done for parity, right? I know there's some who will just keep saying, oh, but it's no, it will never be right. There is no such thing as an ethical tank. You understand? Because tank means doing it on purpose. It is unethical. It is wrong. You can't make that back up to the clubs that didn't do that. And it doesn't even seem to work because, the justifications that I kept hearing from people online, concerned the Winnipeg Jets fandom was, okay, but we need, a first overall draft pick. Okay, listen, that might be the case, but cheating and tanking on purpose is not at all the appropriate way to go about doing it. And look at the Edmonton Oilers. I'm not saying they tanked on purpose. I'm saying they got two of them in a row a little while back. Yeah, some of you call him McJesus. And where's the Stanley Cup? The team struggled to get into the playoffs. No one will ever, ever, ever be able to convince me that, management not doing things or doing things for the purpose of making sure that hockey team loses will always be wrong. Always. There will never be anything right about that. There will never be anything good about that. There will never be anything ethical about that. There will never be anything, no morals or scruples. There's nothing anybody can say to me. And not only that, but you screw over all the other teams that didn't do that. If some of you are worried about people wanting to go play in Winnipeg now, and you still want the tank, okay, but also remember this, right? If you come in last place in the National Hockey League, you are not guaranteed the first overall pick. The lottery, two lottery picks, right, can actually bump someone. Now, see, if you want to get all the way down there, I don't know, 30th, okay, because of the lottery picks, your team can actually get bumped. And so there's really no guarantee of you trying to get a pick that way. Seriously, people. How are you going to justify that to every other NHL franchise that didn't do that? How are you going to justify that to the National Hockey League, which prohibits that? And why do you think the lottery system was created? I'm not ever going to cave on that. Ever. I will always think that is just wrong, wrong, wrong. I would not want to play on a team where, the coaching staff and the player personnel are all busting their hump trying to get wins when management is doing everything they can to tank that team. you have some issues to work out about what kind of person you are. Because stand up people don't do that. Okay? So, no, I would never agree with that. However, I will say, even though I was rooting for Nyquist to score a goal, gosh darn it, it did become a little bewildering as to why. I mean, of all the players, why there was just continued use of Nyquist. I mean, he was doing some things, a little bit of good stuff here and there. I mean, not necessarily producing goals. It's not like he was a total disaster, but it just got to the point where, yeah, what? I mean, what? If there was any player that should have been put on waivers, I would say it had to be Nyquist. Okay, but I was rooting for him. How do you for Nyquist? I mean, I was hoping that he would start scoring goals, and that didn't happen. And there had to be, there had to have been a better option. So, not really sure what's going on, management, coaching. But I mean, that kind of and does end up being a management decision. And yes, well, coaching indicates that there may have been a better option and it was not pursued. I mean, wow. Now, in terms of everybody's thoughts and ideas about draft and develop, okay, I'm not as gloomy doomy about it as some other people are because I have seen in my 40 years of being an NHL nerd, some teams have situations that actually are a little worse and where there's just management coaching fights and all kinds of other stuff and possible, you know, like cooking the books and other kinds of things. Okay. So, you know, I am certain that there are going to be some moose. I'm 100% certain that there are going to be some moose who are going to become Jets. I have zero doubt about that. Zero. The thing about this core, which everybody's saying is aging, well, yes, that's true. Okay. But with Shengon and, Stanimal and I can't say that Nyquist should should be back as a Jet. Okay. There's still some spots to fill. And I know everybody talks about the 2C, like the second line center. I know. And that is a definite need. There's no doubt at all. I don't disagree with anybody on that. I really don't. But there are going to be some moves who are ready. Hellebuck wants to win. And see, here's the thing is that I understand, yes, the 8 seconds, the hockey verse. The goalie subsection of the hockey verse was silent for 8 seconds. Well, because you got to say things in a certain way. And you don't want to say the wrong things. So I get that. I don't think that he had like a terrible, shitty season. Okay, everybody. I mean, that is not the case. However, it probably wasn't his best season. And, playoffs, might need some work when it comes to that. It's hard to tell sometimes when, players or goalies, skaters or goalies, some are going to rise to the playoff occasion and some might struggle. But I'm not as gloomy doomy about the fact that some of the Moose are going to be ready. I think some of you are going to be pleasantly surprised that some of the Moose are going to become Jets. I mean, there's hope there, and I'm saying I'm sure of it. If you need to understand what I'm saying, I know that some of the Jets or some of the Moose are going to be Jets. Okay, and the one thing that would really be a serious issue, and then I might, start leaning a little more toward, oh crap, here comes a total rebuild. It's not losing Hellebuck as much as it is losing Josh Morrissey. That would be damaging. That would be damaging. There really isn't anybody you can replace Josh Morrissey with. I can understand why, a franchise would want to keep two players together. So a lot of people is why aren't Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor split up. I understand that concern, but the way that their chemistry is like almost magical. So I understand where people are coming from with the split, but I can also say, when it came to this year, it should have been tried. I mean, halfway through a game there was a couple games, if anybody noticed, they were split up. It should have been tried. However, I can understand why the propensity would be to keep them together, because that was really the only line that was producing. And it's, well, we need goals, we need goals, we need goals. So it's kind of like, where do you take that risk? One of them definitely, I think just his presence on the line would probably help others on that line play better. But in a situation when there's a severe lack of goal production and defensive breakdowns at the same time, I can see the propensity to try and keep Mark and Kyle together on the first line, because that line was the only line that was actually, producing and producing well. I would not be adverse to Jonathan Toews, but he would have to play a different role, for one thing. But a lot of people are convinced rebuild, and I'm not quite there yet. I do understand, however, why people are starting to look at Chevy a little more. Right. I get it. 15 years isn't unheard of. Okay, there's been some GMs who've been in equal or longer time, but everybody's, and I said this before, everybody who thinks that for some reason True North Sports and Entertainment are just going to stay loyal and allow this GM to just keep going, there's no possible way that that's true, people. I don't care what any kind of lip service anybody said or what any kind of happy thoughts anybody said about, you have a job, blah, blah, because what the efforts and the money and the time that went into getting that team back, a team, an NHL team back in Winnipeg. Okay, this ownership group by no means is going to let that be threatened by a GM who has not had a super duper track record. I can say also GMs are limited sometimes, and that doesn't get discussed a lot, but fans have to understand, GMs, they have no choice when it comes to certain things. There's only so much available. There's only so much cap space. That's not an excuse. It's just a cold hard reality. There's, so some of these ideas that were put out by some Jets fans on some of the chats. Well, I mean, I hear you, but likely some of them definitely not possible in reality because of salary cap and a few other factors. And yeah, NHL players will always play wounded. And depending on which position we're talking about, you know, an AHLer who's not used to the NHL isn't going to be a satisfactory replacement, to be honest. Okay. But what I am saying at this point, yes, even I'm looking at Mr. Cheveldayoff. I mean, no coach is going to be successful if the problem is management. So you can have coaches go in and out and in and out and in and out. Right. When the fundamental issue is management, you know, coaching, changing coaches, keeping coaches, changing coaches, yes, it's not really going to make too much of a difference. It's going to be a coaching carousel, and I am also. I'm not sure. I do see here. I said this, and I'll say it again. I do understand why Nyquist got a contract. It was very specifically meant to be short term because it was basically filling in for a moose who will become a jet. Okay. And that may not make sense to some of you, but, in hindsight, well, obviously, that wasn't the world's best situation going on there. Some of these that people are saying mistakes is sometimes you just don't know until you try. See, made a mistake, he made a mistake. Oh, but wait, they're too afraid to change things. You guys are not hearing yourselves like I am. Okay? Because if Chevy makes changes and does things and, doesn't, right? Oh, you made a mistake. Oh, they're too afraid to change things. They're too afraid to take risks. You're always going to be trying to reach for something in the future. I mean, try to be a little more objective about how you are seeing what's happening. Okay? Because if the coach was changing lines a good bit, all right, there's not much you can do about who's available. Um, and calling up guys from the Moose, well, I mean, it does have to, I mean, it can happen, but you can't, pull up everybody from the noose. And there's salary cap you have to understand. The maneuvering and all that other kind of stuff, it's a little more complicated than some of the Winnipeg Jets fan chatters kind of understand. It really is. No excuse, no bullshit. This is the National Hockey League. I've been nerding out on the National Hockey League for 40 years. Okay? It's another reason I'm not getting angry. I mean, I can say that just after a while, it's just what's going on here. Baffled by the continued use of Nyquist. And also, I don't really give a shit. I mean, when it comes to kind of Hellberg, when it comes to goalies, I mean, even if, right, I don't care. There were several occasions this season where Connor Hellebuyck should not have played even 10 in a row. He should have had, a break somewhere. But any goalie playing 10 in a row in the National Hockey League is not hockey smart. I don't give a shit who the effing goalie is. There's absolutely nothing hockey smart about that. Nothing. There were 2 occasions where point blank Eric Comrie should have gone in. 1, so that he doesn't get game cold. And 2, because 10 games in a row is just plain stupid. So if they felt pressured by Hellebuyck, maybe some things need to be looked at and changed. Even if Connor Hellebuyck himself were to, have conversation with me, I would quite literally say right to his face, you just can't ever expect, nor is it even hockey wise, to have a player playing 10, 11 games in a row. It just, that just, no. Again, you never want your backup to get game cold. And, gone are the days of the guys like Marty Brodeur who plays 60. It's not feasible. Also, as Connor Hellebuyck knows now, right, has a knee, starts to be an issue, right? Repetitive use issues are a serious consideration for all NHL goalies, particularly goalies who carry a bit of a heavier load. And it is wise to make sure that the body and the mind are getting a certain amount of rest. And you never, ever, ever let your backup get game cold. So at this point, I am like other people. I mean, I'm not running around with a fire Chevy sign, but I'm just going to tell everybody, I don't care what anybody has heard or what anybody was said. It makes no difference. There is no way that True North Sports and Entertainment are going to risk this franchise because of a GM, even if they were best friends. Because I know how much time, consideration, money, conversation, thought, and finagling went into getting Winnipeg an NHL franchise back. So rest assured, it may not seem like it, There's no way that if keeping a GM is going to put that in jeopardy, trust me when I tell you, no, Chevy does not have total job security at all. You got to trust me when I tell you that. No GM does, but particularly, no. If this franchise is put in a certain kind of jeopardy by a GM, there's no way that GM is going to be kept. But here is the situation now, okay? Changing a coach, if the actual issue is management, is just prolonging the inevitable and causing an atmosphere for the players that is really going to be off-putting. I mean, if it's difficult enough trying to get players to play in Winnipeg, it may not be as bad as some of you think, okay? But if it's difficult, then you can change coaches all you want, and all that is just slowly making everything right. You have to understand that changing coaches, if the issue is management, does nothing but kill a team slowly. And it could end a franchise. So I don't really think, to be honest with everyone, that the people of True North Sports and Entertainment, considering what it took to get an NHL team back in Winnipeg, I can assure you that GM's job is not forever. It's not. No way. They're not going to risk the loss of this franchise because of a GM. So when it comes to coaching, it's kind of like, yeah, well, the GM might want to, throw a coach under the bus. They're often sacrificial lambs. However, it does seem at this point that management is more the issue, in which case, keep Arneal and change up the GM, because changing coaches will do nothing if management is the issue. I mean, Mark Scheifele is a highly talented, skilled player, and Kyle Connor has his strengths. The system that they were attempting to continue to push, though, became fairly evident to other teams that there was a way to just nullify that and force the Jets to react and to play the other team's game. So there are some issues, I agree. Okay, everybody, I'm saying, okay, well, forget about who the coach is, because it doesn't matter who you get. You could get John Cooper in here, and he's a winning coach. You could get all kinds of coaches in here, and they'll probably be booted out if management doesn't change. And at this point, it would just be the right thing to do for True North Sports and Entertainment to really just kind of suck it up and understand that given changes that have happened since, I don't know, let me just say, well, from the start of Jets 2.0. Okay. it seems more like a management issue than it does a coaching issue. Now, it's much more obvious. So I'm hoping that True North Sports and Entertainment does the right thing. I mean, I was happy for you guys when uh, you got your team back, and I really would hate to have that club in a situation where it gets closer to having no NHL club again. So hopefully, True North Sports and Entertainment are gonna make good, right decisions, and maybe they should talk to some consultants and some other people who have saved franchises or cleaned up a mess from former GMs this summer. But I mean, forget about who the coach is. I mean, Scott Arniel might do just fine. We don't know what Scott Arniel and the coaching staff can do right under a different GM. So, it, I mean, it's it's just that simple. And I know a lot of people might want to disagree with me on some things, but I've just been a fan of lover of hockey and a nerd about the National Hockey League for so long. It's why I'm not getting angry and I'm not getting too disappointed. And, you know, I don't work for the club. So I in a way, helpless to do anything about any of that. So I have to look at it as though I don't have control. So all I really know to do is just cheer on the whole freaking enchilada. But right now, to be honest, I'm cheering on True North Sports and Entertainment to really wholeheartedly do the good, right, hockey smart thinking and decisions. And Mr. Cheveldayoff absolutely. It I will say that it was disappointing that he had to have a written, prepared script to answer to his end of the year press. Also, management should have, you know, at about game 8 of the losing streak, made a purpose to openly address the public and have, a presser, and occasionally put out maybe a recorded statement to say we are, the last few weeks we've been evaluating Moose players. We have open conversations with other franchises. There should have been a bit more information put out. So for me, I'm looking at it, around game 8 of the losing streak, the club should have just like had GM should have had some press availability to address certain things and to reassure everyone, hey, we are evaluating the Moose. We have these guys and we're doing that. And we're talking to several clubs. There might be some movement options. It was the silence and the fact that a freaking GM had to have this script paper. Yeah, that one really. And I've been like trying hard to see all the positives and put the positives out there. And I know it might have been pissing off some of the fans because they're like, well, why can't you see? It's like, no, I do. But sometimes just looking for the positives and looking for the positives and looking for the positives and considering the, you know, coaching staff and just players might have been feeling a little helpless. If the issue really is management, and it does seem that way, and especially did not make any comments around the time of the, you know, the losing streak, and had to have a written script. Right. So let's all hope that True North Sports and Entertainment loves ice hockey and the Winnipeg Jets plenty enough to be able to see that you really don't want to keep on giving leeway to a GM that might possibly get you in such a pickle that Winnipeg doesn't have an NHL team anymore. So, I mean, I saw enough now to say, I mean, I understand. I'm not the type to run around fire this one, fire that one, blow up the bench. I still don't think a fire sale is necessary to be one. I mean, I've seen some clubs, well, Tampa Bay is one of them, okay? But there's other clubs that have been like in even worse predicaments than this, okay? And people came in, you know, fans helped, people helped, people within, they just rose up. And so, some of those teams got back on track. And for the age flick, I understand what this young gentleman who has a blog is saying there. The thing of it is that you don't understand the cycles as well as I do. Because I've been through like several generations of NHL ice hockey players, growing right and all this. It's gonna flip again. It is gonna flip again. So that is another reason why True North Sports and Entertainment should really be contemplating getting a different GM who understands that kind of the way things ebb and flow in the National Hockey League. Because if you get one of those kind of GMs, that GM will be able to catch the wave at the right time. Because that could still happen. But I just don't think that Mr. Sheveldayoff has the proper, whatever you want to call it. Okay? The winning mindset also means understanding the ebbs and flows of the National Hockey League really well, and understands, the outward signs of coaches and players coming this close to saying, please help us, Mr. GM. So, to be honest, trying to replace a coach and keep the GM is not how this works. If there's a new GM, Scott Arniel should at least have the chance. If a new GM is put in place, he should at least have a chance with a new GM to try and help turn this around. He's personally invested because of his ties mean, that's something that's important for people to understand. And I wasn't seeing the telltale signs of a group of guys called the room. You know, it, he didn't appear to totally lose them. Okay. There are telltale signs for that. They're unmistakable. And those things were not happening. Okay. So, those are my thoughts. And, I mean, if Vasilevsky wants to come up here, get the net. Oh, I mean, come on, Vassy. uh, yeah, I mean, I hear you. I don't get riled up because, I mean, essentially, I'm helpless to do anything about it, and I have to for my own sake. Just look at it as like, well, I can't control any of it. I don't work for the club. I can't walk into a room and just look these people in the eye and say, well, okay, yeah, 6 of these clubs did that, and look, I mean, one of them actually went bankrupt, right? And then yes, these 2 clubs, they did that, and you know what, they rose up from the ashes, and it quite literally hurts me, to be honest. I mean, I know better than some of these people who get paid, and I care a great deal about an NHL, just the NHL, but a franchise. And it would be just a total shitbag situation if True North Sports and Entertainment went, through what they went through and managed to get a team up in Winnipeg again, and then lost it because they couldn't see that there's a management issue. If you have a management issue, it doesn't matter what kind of player personnel you have, it doesn't matter what kind of coaches you have. And there is one club I know extraordinarily well that may have ridden the GM a little too long. So, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate all the chatters. I know I sometimes get a little excitable. Um, but again, if anybody's got an X.com account, can you please? I put my name down in the chat column. Send something to X support and say, okay, you've you suspended Creasinger's account because she reported it had been hacked, and now you're still taking money from, yes, for a premium account I can't access. I mean, you're this universe is going to let up on me, and you're going to do it now, and people are going to grow hearts, and people are going to actually follow through what they say. I appreciate what Sean Reynolds said in the ending Kenny and Ronnie, that it's like, you be honest and you try and stick to your word. And what I saw today was Coach Arneal trying to be honest. And then I saw the reason, oh, yes, we're going to do this and do it by True North Sports and Entertainment. It just became abundantly clear. And I'm hoping you can see it this way now. The guy had to have a piece of paper. Mismanagement has happened with this club. I can agree with you guys on that for sure. But I try to actually accentuate some of the positives as I go, because for fuck's sake, I don't work for that fucking club and there's not a goddamn thing I can do about it, and it makes me nuts. So instead of going nuts and instead of just like hurting, I have to do it that way. But, I mean, go Moose, and then go True North Sports and Entertainment. A wise decision needs to be made. This could teeter in the wrong way to the point where there's no more franchise again. So, anyway, everybody enjoy your summers. I'm rooting for the Moose. I'm really proud of Buffalo, actually. There's some people who just like blood, sweat, and tears. And, it looked like that club might be lost for a little while. And so, they just decided to just go charging up the hill there. And I have no doubt they're going to make Boston crazy. And of course, the Battle of Pennsylvania. I got to be honest with you. I think the Flyers have the edge. Okay, I really do. I think the Flyers have the edge over the Pens. And I would just love it if the Stars could get booted out first. Yeah, I'm not so sure that the Avs can go the whole way, though. Everybody, I mean, I'm not so sure about that entirely. A lot of people might. I'm not so sure. But, get in there, Buffalo, make Boston crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, those are my thoughts. And now I have to just stop thinking about it because I don't work for that club and I can't go sit in the room and I can't say, okay, well, you need to learn from these four clubs and this and that. But when it comes to the age flip, it's going to flip again. It is. It's going to flip again. And, a good GM who understands, has the pulse, his fingers on the pulse of the NHL and the markets, is going to know how to arrange that to the Jets' advantage. I can see it clearly. I can usually tell when these flips happen because I've just been at this for 40 years. So, let's all go with, go True North and Sports Entertainment and make some really good decisions. All right, everybody stay safe. And yes, health update. We are working to get me rescheduled to get my new hip. I had to be clear from pneumonia, which I finally am. That was 3 months of pneumonia, then double pneumonia, and my shoulder is deteriorating. So once the hip surgery's done, I'm probably going to be titanium from the waist down. I mean, my quality of life is almost is total crap. And I struggle with that, to be honest. But whatever. I mean, it's going to be my hip and my shoulder. I may be able to get some fill in my knee, but one knee in particular will probably at some point need to be replaced. And I have to get checked for, certain types of cancer all the time. And I'm dirt ass poor through no fault of my own. Ignorant people. Right? You don't know what you're saying online. People think giving me lectures and teaching me shit, and I'm just like, no, I think it's the other way around. I think I'm the one who should be telling you. I've had some people, I've had some pretty fucked up shit. Some people come at me with some fucked up shit. This is true. But anyway, so I will be working on my calluses so that I can play Doug's song in honor of Doug. And the subtitle to that is "Cancer Sucks." This is for sure. I have much more strong words. I got hockey bench coach vernacular. Right. Like, I think everybody should hate on it until it curls up and dies. I wonder if that'll work. I don't know. Anyway, so I guess I will chime in here and there throughout the summer when stuff pops up. But otherwise, for the hockey people, I'll see you next season. And good for you, Buffalo.